Hey guys, it's Carly from All the Pretty Books, and I'm here with Nocturne Eric from Instagram. We're going to be discussing Jim Kay's illustrated Goblet of Fire. We're going to discuss the illustrations that we wanted to see. We're going to discuss what was left out that we thought should have been put in, and we're going to discuss what we think book 5 will look like.
Yeah, so I'm Eric on Instagram. I'm only on Instagram, so if you want more Nocturne Eric, it's only on Instagram. So I'm excited to talk about this. It's going to be great. I think we should preface this, though, by first saying that I really enjoyed this book a lot. I think the pictures are great. I think the length is really good. And I think you would agree with that in general, you are very satisfied with the overall book.
Yeah.
So.
And, yeah, I think it's just basically, we're not complaining about the book. We really, really love the book. We just really wanted to discuss it because we've been looking forward to it for a year since it was first announced, if not more than. Because it's my favorite book. Well,
and
they
took that other break because they did the other illustrated Fantastic Beasts and Beetle the Bard.
Well,
right.
And they did those because they actually went and took the break originally because Jim Kay was dealing with tennis elbow.
Oh, from the other books.
Yeah. So that's from the other books. So that's part of the reason for the break. That was not an intended break. So I've been looking forward to this pretty much since the illustrated books were announced. So it's only fitting that we discuss it.
Sounds good. I think we're both looking at the American version. The differences are very subtle. Just so we can preface.
Yeah, it's the same text block.
Same text block. The only major difference is the font of the title.
They have these super cool paste downs, you guys. And those are something that the other books didn't do. And there, if you look closely, is that squid? That's squid, isn't it?
Yeah, it has to be the giant squid because it has more than 8 legs.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just mirrored. And then even the little touch of the gold border going around the whole outside, I think that's just outstanding too.
And it makes it so fancy.
It makes it feel like a quality. It's just a quality book, which it is. The whole thing just oozes quality.
Also, I thought the title page, with the guy selling things.
Yes.
I thought the title page was probably the prettiest title page of the illustrated books.
It's very happy.
It is happy, and I don't remember the other illustrated books even having they had some minor illustrations, but it was just kind of background things. This is more it's a page out of the book illustration.
Yeah, exactly. And we can touch on
and it fits in. It fits in with the front of the book too. It fits in with the whole Quidditch thing, which is where it starts. Before or right after you leave, the Dursleys.
Right. I didn't notice this the first time we chatted. The little tiny house elf dolls that he's selling.
They're Dobbies.
I know they're little Dobby dolls. I don't know. Who are those for? Kids to play with? Their house elf dolls? While their house elf is cleaning their house? That's kind of weird.
And they have snitches too. I love that. That would be things you would see at a kid's fair, I guess.
Well, and I think that's just a great example of these books. I've looked through here a few times, probably 3 or 4 individual, and I notice something new every time, just because the illustrations are so detailed. And that's the same for all of the Jim Kay illustrated editions. You really do feel like you get your money's worth in terms of quality content, I think.
Yeah, I never once flipped through here and was oh, I'm disappointed, I'm not going to buy it. I've loved every single book he's illustrated. I think I got really spoiled to his illustrations when I was looking at other illustrated editions like the Tales of Beetle the Bard and Fantastic Beasts. So the Riddle House.
The silhouette of the Riddle House is fantastic. I think it is in the top of the house. I think it's just outstanding because that. Oh, it's so dark, but then there's the one light on because you know who's in there because we've read it all before. But it's creepy. It's almost kind of like a Tim Burton type house. Yeah, or an Edward Scissorhands type.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
That's what I'm expecting. And it sets the tone very, very well for how creepy. And it sets the tone for the end of the book,
This whole chapter is, the colors are inverted. So the text is lighter and the background is darker. And that goes throughout the entire chapter.
Yeah.
Which I think...
The whole chapter.
It's spooky.
And then on what page is it? The page with Harry with the scar Burning Bright.
11.
I think it's
Yep.
11. That is such a stark image, and video doesn't do it justice. But I love how like his scar is just super duper bright, and his eyes are wide. Even if you haven't read the book here, you know there's something bad going on. Plus, you see the snake scales in the background, and if you read at least book 1 and 2, you know that there's issues with snaky things.
Which I don't know. Overall, very satisfied with that chapter. I think it's everything you wanted it to be, everything I wanted it to be. I can't think of anything I'd rather have in there. So that brings us to the next chapter, The Scar.
So really fast, I love how this is the first book where they started these chapter, like at the chapter heading, they have the borders. And it really does dress up the book. It minimizes the illustration amount that Jim Kay has to do, but it still makes the book really fancy and beautiful. It sets it off. I almost wish they would have carried the border over to the other page like you see in some of the older manuscripts and whatnot. But I'm not complaining. It's still
I'm not either.
done.
And like obviously it's there to offset the start of the chapter, but it's not on the next page. And then even the next 2 pages where there's just nothing, there's no illustrations at all. Like that would have been a nice touch to keep that border around there, because as we'll be talking about later in the book, it does get very empty feeling at certain points.
But it would probably also up the cost of the book because ink is expensive. The book is already at full price, $47.99, $47.95, whatever, almost $50 US. So even if you get it on a discount, that's still $25-ish for a book. That's a lot of ink. And the paper's hefty, so that's probably one of the reasons why the illustrations are maybe more minimalized. I don't know, but I think we're going to start seeing more of the empty pages as the books carry on, especially in book 5.
I mean, unless they're wanting to increase like the suggested retail price.
And then I think it'll be too high for most people. So I think that that's what they're having to weigh also is like the cost versus, you know, the payoff and people buying it. Because even if they up the cost, then they're going to have to wind up, you know, like if Barnes & Noble and Amazon both had it deeply discounted. Amazon had it 40, Barnes & Noble had it 50% off. I don't know how long it's going on. I don't know if it's still the case. But that's still a lot of sales at half cost. So that's a hit right there.
It is. Well, you and I are going to buy all of them. I mean, there are lots of collectors and there are lots of people that are watching this video that will buy them all regardless of the price. But it's like that market of people that are like, I already own this. Do I need to buy another copy of it? I have the book already. Yeah, like that's gonna really turn those people off if it's like 70, 80, 90, $100 US for a book.
Well, it's the same with the Deluxe Illustrated, which is like the bigger version of these books in the slipcase. Those are, you know, $100, $200, $300 each.
It's a lot.
And that's, I only have Chamber of Secrets Illustrated. They take up a lot of space. They're very super duper heavy. And I'm super dedicated. Anyone who's seen anything in my book room knows that. But
that's a lot. I don't have any of the Deluxe.
And then the shipping, like the shipping itself is more than this book, the normal illustrated cost, depending on where you buy it from. So there's all these different things to consider. What do you think of the Dursleys?
I think they are pudgy enough. Does that make sense?
Yes, and something like J.K. tends to stick more to the authenticity of J.K. Rowling's
and I like that a lot.
Writing. So they're not going to look necessarily like the movie depictions at all, and we especially see that later on, and we'll get to like Rita and some of the other things where it's vastly different than what we see. Or the letter from the Weasleys with all the stamps. That's pretty funny. And they didn't, because Weasleys don't use regular mail, so that she just put a lot of stamps on it to get it there. I didn't know.
Again, like it's more details that you notice when you look at it again. The stamps are all like varying prices. Like they're just like
I was actually just looking at that.
Random stamps.
Yeah, it's just like she bought different things and she was like, that'll be good. Or that one's pretty, we'll put it here. There's a Fort Anglia on there, which I thought was clever. There's a Hogwarts Express.
It's almost like it's strange that they're like mostly different stamps. Like you'd think if she went to actually go buy stamps, like Muggle stamps, that she would just be like, yeah, give me a whole bunch of them. And they'd give you like a big roll of them. So,
but it's also Molly. a very eccentric kind of lady is what she reminds me of. So I could see her being like, no, dear, that's not pretty, as she's buying them from the post office.
Oh, yeah, that's true. So that moves on to the Back to the Burrow chapter. But there's a great 2 pictures of Arthur Weasley in here. With the candy on page, 32.
Yes, I love
I think
this page.
that's a nice touch. And that's a nice way to make an empty page feel a little more vibrant, which I always like in these editions where you can run into long patches of nothing.
I wanted to see, honestly, back to the Burrow chapter real fast. That is one of my favorite chapters of this whole book, and I was so disappointed that they left out. There was really funny moments, super awkwardly funny moments that were just left out.
I don't know why they needed 2 pictures of Arthur Weasley when, you're right, they could have put some other picture of the Weasleys, or the Dursleys, standing there looking kind of dumbfounded, or Vernon Dursley throwing breakables at Arthur Weasley's head. I mean, there's a whole bunch of stuff they could have used, and they just put 2 pictures of Arthur Weasley in there, which it's fine, right? I'm not upset, but
it's fine. We and it's cool. I think this is the first time we've seen Arthur Weasley depicted, isn't it?
As far as I remember, at least in this close of a picture.
Yeah, he may have been in a Daily Prophet magazine article from book 3, but I don't remember him. Maybe was he depicted in book 2 at all?
Not that I remember, but we'll probably find the answer to that when we do this video for book 2.
That's true. Beautiful full-page photo real fast under the Weasley's Wizard Wheezes on page 36.
This really looks like a kid's room, which I think is what it's supposed to look like, and I like that a lot.
Like the Quidditch player cards. I mean, it really does look like a kid's room, like a magical kid's room. It's got books everywhere. There's chaos. There's lots of orange, and I love that they're keeping with the orange. It's kind of the trend of the book.
What, that's that's written down, right? I remember that, Harry does say something about how everything's really orange in there. So that's nice that they carried that through.
And there's Chudley Cannon stuff everywhere, and that's definitely there. And then something else that you pointed out that I thought was really cool was page 40, the 2 full pages on the next page over, where it's the outside then the inside. Sure.
So I don't know why I noticed this right away, but I kind of did. So on the Weasley's Wizard Wheezes chapter, there's a picture of the Weasley's house from the outside, and you can kind of see the details of the garden, and you can see Molly inside through one of the windows making something in the kitchen, and it's just a nice little picture. And then the closer you look when you turn the page, it's the same picture, but it's just from the inside of the house. So you can see the back of Molly working in the kitchen, and you can see all the magical type things that they have in the kitchen from the inside. So it really gives you a cool outside inside of the same part of the Weasley's house, which I thought was really clever, because I didn't notice it immediately on the flip through, but then
no, I didn't either.
I noticed it on my second flip through that they were you could tell they're related. You just can't tell that they're the exact same picture from a different angle.
Right. I thought that was so clever. Even if you're looking on the outside, the windows open at about the same angle. I think that is just so cool. Just he's a magnificent artist.
It's clever. It's so clever, and the details that you can see. I mean, I'm just finding new things to look at now.
Right.
Looking at it right now. It's just awesome. So don't need to spend too much time on that, but that might be, I know we talked about our favorite illustrations. That might be one of mine in this book.
Yeah, same.
Just because it's a pleasant surprise and attention to detail, which is pretty cool.
There's lots of full pages of the Portkey and the Portkey chapter, and it's lots of background sort of illustration where it's got text over it, and it's more a faded into the background kind of thing.
Yeah, and I like that it carries over to another page. It's kind of a 360-degree view from the top of that hill. There's another picture of Harry on page 50 where he looks quite old.
I know. I think we talked about... Yeah, we did. It kind of bothers me.
Yeah, because he looks old. He looks like he's 20. So it's Harry and Hermione, and she's kind of giving him the sly look, but he looks old. She looks kind of old too, but not as old as he does.
Is that Harry, though?
I think it is.
Is that Cedric?
I don't think so. I don't know. Is it?
I don't know. Because Cedric is mentioned a lot here.
Yeah.
And that doesn't look like any other Harry, although it's a profile.
I know. I think this is another... It's not a concern, and I'm not upset about this in any way, but when we talked the last time, there's a couple other pictures where we just can't tell who it is.
Yeah, and that is...
And, like, it might...
That bothers me.
Yeah, and it's not like I need a caption, but it would be helpful if, like, they had, like, a little quote, like, from the book that the scene's depicting in some cases.
Right.
Or, like, I mean, we'll get to the section about, like, the dragons, but when they have, like, those info pages about the animals where it just gives more information, so it shows that, like, Jim Kay isn't hesitant to add those additional details to kind of clear any confusion, so it would have been nice, because, yeah, I mean, it's either Harry or Cedric.
Right.
But I'm not confident
it almost,
either way.
I mean, it's a red coat, so that kind of makes you think Gryffindor, but that doesn't look like...
He's got a watch on.
Right. And that doesn't look like any Harry. And there's a lot of Cedric in the text here. I don't have a good enough grasp on who it is. And I've read the books over and over and over again. I just don't recognize the illustration, I guess.
Yeah, and I'm just quickly scanning the text here.
I'm doing the same thing. I'm going through...
And there's nothing about, like, Hermione or Ginny or anyone giving, like, Cedric a sideways glance.
No, I don't see any...
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm with you there. What do you think about the next full page illustration? Because honestly, it may be one of my favorites.
Yeah, I'm going to try to limit myself to saying it's one of my favorites, but this is one of my favorites. It's just a full page double spread of the tents at the Quidditch World Cup in the campsite.
Well,
and it's just awesome.
It's one of the moments that I really wanted to see illustrated. Like the tents, like the moment where they're talking about all the different tents and how neat they are. How can you not want to be there, you know?
Right. When they were describing all of, like, the tents that clearly look magical.
Right.
I mean, it's all there. Everything that's in the text is all there. This is another one of those where I see something new every time I look at it.
But then you look at it, and remember they were trying to all kind of wear Muggle clothing and were doing it poorly? Yeah. So, like, here's a guy in a top hat wearing a rubber ducky float. It's little details like that just make you love the illustration that much more. And then the color palette used, the colors are so vibrant and so, it's just happy. It's a happy page. It doesn't tell you anything that's about to happen. You can just look at it and be like, I want to be right there.
And then we turn the page and we see Emo Crumb.
Yeah.
If you turn back to that picture of Harry and Hermione we were talking about, like, they look very similar. I mean, it's not the same person.
Right.
They look similar.
Well, it's kind of that drawn-in cheekbone thing.
Yeah.
It's almost like a gauntness.
Yeah.
And I don't know if Crumb was described that way. I don't remember Crumb's description because I'd seen him so long as the movie Crumb.
Well, they always describe him as really grumpy looking.
But he doesn't look grumpy there. He kind of looks like Twilight met, Edward Cullen met Crumb.
Or the guy from All American Rejects.
Yeah. But I would like to hear you guys' opinion on Crumb because he's kind of emo to us. Great illustration, just kind of emo.
Yeah. So let's zoom ahead here. There's a great picture of Bagman and Crouch. And then we get to the Quidditch World Cup chapter, which I would have personally liked to see more of this chapter illustrated.
I think this is where one of my more disappointing moments. Like, I like seeing the sketch of everybody in the stands. I think that's great and beautiful. But there's not much more after that. There's the referee on the broom.
73.
Yeah.
Yeah. In
the middle of the page. Then there's a full page layout.
One of the Ireland guys with the mohawk has got like a teddy bear strapped to his broom.
Yeah.
I don't know why that's there.
It's a beautiful illustration. Like, I like that the strokes are all moving, so it looks like there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
So you can tell that they're definitely in motion. They're moving really fast. You can see the Quidditch pitch rings. They're all trying to get, score points, stop points, the whole thing. But then you flip the page, and it's womp, womp, womp. There's just nothing else. Like, really, out of everything, you didn't get it in the movie, you didn't get it in the book, and I really wanted to see the Leprechauns and the Vila doing their thing on the pitch.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's one of my favorite moments, because it just sounds like, you see it at all the sports games, the cheerleaders or whatnot for every side of the team.
Yeah.
And it sounded like something I would love to see. I would love to see the leprechauns. I would love to see the villa, because we don't really get a good depiction of what a villa is here.
Right.
And that could have been something I feel like he could have clarified, because, I mean, unless you've seen the movies, and even then, you still don't even see that part. Like, they skipped the Quidditch match almost entirely.
Right. I would have liked to have seen, like, just almost like the page with the tents. I would have liked to see one of the stadium. I mean, they talk about how impressive
huge
it is.
Yeah. That could have been a huge full page spread with, like, how big, and you could have it, like, next to, like, a little bitty wizard.
Right. And again, we're sounding negative here.
But
I love this book, right?
Yeah,
we're not negative. I love it.
These are just things
just
that
wishful thinking.
And something, too, and we talked about it last time, is that there's so many wonderful moments to illustrate here that they're not going to get them all. It would be too much, especially for one super very talented man. So I'm just going to have to be disappointed and love the book. And I'm not even disappointed in Jim Kay. I'm not disappointed in the book. I'm just disappointed the moment is gone.
Right.
Like, it just only exists in my imagination. As weird as it is, and I love my imagination, I really wanted to see it illustrated.
Yep, same. Dark Mark chapter. There's a nice double page of Malfoy in there. Yeah.
And he's emo looking too, but I mean, it's Malfoy, so we'll allow it.
Right, I'd expect that. And then there's a pretty cool Dark Mark picture. Again, like the text block is lighter, and it's kind of a tense moment. So I like when, like, the tenser moments or the creepier, darker moments are inverted, and the text is light and the background's dark.
I think it builds. Wish they would have continued that through the rest of the chapter, because you flip the page and it's back to white again.
Yeah, and it's back to, like, nothing for a lot till the end of the chapter.
Until the next chapter, which is Mayhem at the Ministry.
Yep, and even this chapter is pretty empty. In fact, there's no illustration in that chapter at all. So,
nope.
Chapter 10. Chapter 10.
Other than the border.
Right, which it's nice, but
then we get to chapter 11 aboard the Hogwarts Express, and we have two wonderful layouts of our most favorite train.
Yep, which is great. It's interesting to me, though, how, like, you'll go page after page of nothing, and then there'll be two back-to-back illustrations that take up both pages. So,
and as much as I love the train images, because who doesn't love Hogwarts Express, I don't understand the two back-to-back.
Right.
Even though they're both breathtaking, and I would be hard-pressed if I were choosing, like, if I were the editor and I were choosing which images to include and which to disclude, I couldn't disclude either one of these. So I get why they included them, but it goes back to what you were saying. It follows in a weird consistency.
Yeah. We get to the Triwizard Tournament chapter. Nothing.
And I was kind of hoping for a picture of the Sorting Hat during the Sorting Hat song.
Yeah.
And there's not one.
Nope, and all we get is a nearly headless Nick picture.
Yeah.
Which is fine, but
that's it.
That's it for the whole chapter. This next chapter, the Mad-Eye Moody chapter, it's strange. It's strange. There's a cool part. I wish there would have been a little bit more to this one. I know we talked about, like, moments that we wish we could have seen more of. Mm-hmm. I wish we could have seen more in this, but I mean, they do have a nice one of the Blast-Ended Scroot.
Yes, this is the first time we see the Blast-Ended Scroot illustrated.
And it looks revolting, so, as it should, right?
I mean, it looks like it should. It's a horrible-looking buggy thing. So, it looks like how I wanted it to.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, it looks awful. And then we get a really nice page. You brought this up the last time we talked about this, where on one page is Mad-Eye Moody, on the other page is Malfoy, the dancing ferret, and just kind of the way the text interrupts those pictures, I think, is pretty cool. Where it continues. There's more to it than just looking at one page. You have to kind of you have to piece them together as the reader.
I don't like the spider at the bottom of 139. I don't like spiders.
No, I don't like spiders either. This is where the spew buttons come in, which I think are really clever.
They are, and I like how they're, like, not big and taking over the whole page. They're just kind of down at the bottom.
They do. Although the one with the flowers on it, like, I could tell why people wouldn't want to wear that one. It's a little girly.
Especially if you're a young teenage boy.
Exactly. Which, yeah. Oh well. All right.
And then we have a bigger Blast-Ended Scroot on 151.
Yeah, which, I mean,
I don't understand. We've already seen.
Yeah, it's bigger, and, like, I think we know it's bigger because we've read the book, and if you're reading the book, you know it's bigger too, but there's like nothing to compare it to. I almost wish there was something in there so that you could see just how big it is.
Right, other than just like blowing it up on the page.
Right, and it's revolting. I've used that word before, and it just is. So, but other than that, we really get nothing until...
Well, you see Dobby cleaning the knife.
Oh, that's right.
That's kind of precious. 152.
Oh, there it is. Sorry, my page is stuck together there. You're right. That is pretty cute.
Anything with Dobby is kind of a hit for me. But then we get the wonderful full-page spread of the Beauxbaton carriage entrance, and it's just magic. It is as wonderful as I wanted it to be. The horses are big like they should be. They're regal. I love this page. I love everything about this page.
You can see like the treetops are being like snipped off as it kind of skims it over the top.
And the birds are all mad.
The chains that are going through the air, like that are connecting all the horses. I'm sure there's a more horse-like term for that.
Yes, they have like bee.
Bee in there. It's just cool. And the carriage looks big, like you could sleep in the carriage, which they do, right?
It does. It looks like a night bus. Well, it looks like the size of what you'd see a night bus.
When one of the Creevy brothers says it's a flying house, I mean, it looks like a flying house. So
yeah, like an RV kind of thing. And I love the sky colors. They look like cotton candy.
They do.
So I feel like it's a very beautiful page here.
Thumbs up for that one.
And then is this Emo Crumb again?
Yeah, we got Emo Crumb.
On 162.
We have Emo Crumb. I think it's Fleur Delacour. Like more obvious that she is just like so attractive that people stop in their tracks and forget what they're doing.
Right, because she's half Vila.
Right.
The Vila were supposed to make people lose their marbles here.
Right, and she's pretty looking, but it doesn't emphasize that.
I always kind of pictured Vila kind of a glowy figure,
like
glowing,
even like a ray of like glowiness coming off of her would have been nice.
Kind of just like an inner light shining through kind of thing, like an ethereal kind of beauty here. And there's a lot of dark in this photo of her, or what I think is her. And I don't see, even if she's half, you'd expect some of those characteristics. I don't know. That's just what I expected.
Same, but
I thought they actually captured Fleur better in the movies.
Yeah. I would agree with that. So that brings us to this great Dumbledore picture on 173.
Which is so different from what you see in the movies, where Dumbledore's all mad and yelly.
Yeah. I forgot about that. Oh, yeah. Why are you so mad, Dumbledore? No, this is good. It's like a sense of awe, and it's like almost like he's taking in like the uniqueness of this tournament taking place as everybody else.
Like he's excited to be a part of this tournament as much as the next guy, and he doesn't know what's going to happen.
Right.
Well, and then this is when it starts to really kind of fall off illustration-wise. We meet the 4 champions.
Yep.
And then the illustrations really start to wane.
Yep. So the 4 champions, there's just a small, like half page
illustration
of Harry walking around.
And it's just kind of a sepia tone.
Yep. Then we get to Weighing of the Wands, where there's nothing. We got a little more support Cedric Diggory badges, Potter Sphinx badges, which are a nice touch. Similar style. They look
kind of like the Spew badges.
Yeah, similar style as the Spew badges.
Right. We meet Rita Skeeter on page 192, and she is vastly different from her very attractive movie counterpart.
Right. She looks a little creepy.
But this is the Rita Skeeter that we meet in the book.
Yes.
Like, so this is a lot more in tune to how she was described.
Yes.
Not the attractive green lady.
Right. And I love the quick quotes quill. I have to say that slowly. And I love the handbag. The handbag's really good.
Yes. And that looks like how I pictured Rita when I was first reading the book years ago.
Yes. And something I just noticed now, because you always notice things when you're looking, the outfit she's wearing, there's like beetles on it.
I know.
So,
and if you know you know what her animagus is, it's really fitting.
Right. So that's I don't know if that was intentional. I'm sure it was. I don't know how it would be.
Well, and then if you look at the clasp on her purse, it's also a beetle.
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
And then there's a thing on the wallpaper behind her that says moth bomb.
Oh, and there's the Sphinx in the closet. I was mad that the Sphinx isn't in this book at all, but I guess it is. It's in the closet. Then we get this confusing part here. But there's 4 photos in a row, and it's Fleur what we've decided is Mr. Ollivander, Cedric, and Crumb. And there isn't a Harry one. And there isn't like a picture of all the champions, which I kind of thought there should be because they're posing for photos in this chapter. Like they talk about that group photo where like Madame Maxime has to sit on the chair and everyone has to like get around her. Like it would have been nice, I think, to have that picture in here, but it is what it is. It's just interesting that there's like 3 of the champions and then Mr. Ollivander, but Harry's not in there.
Right, but Harry's discluded.
Right. So that brings us to chapter 19, The Hungarian Horntail, which, again, we love this book. I love it a lot. But this is the part of the book where we start to see pictures of dragons, and we see lots of pictures of dragons, and then we see even more pictures of dragons. And just when you think it's done, there's more pictures of dragons.
Right.
And then...
Which is great.
It is great.
It's just... You don't see that kind of continuity throughout the rest of the book.
Right.
So it makes me wonder if the dragons were drawn first, because it's so important in the book, and so that could be why we actually have them, as they were drawn first.
Right, that makes sense.
Because I'm guessing they were going to kind of keep it with what we were seeing in the first 3, with a lot more background illustrations, kind of illustrated papers, and that's just not what that's not what he can do. It's too much.
Right, and this is a huge book. I remember reading this book when I was like just an elementary school child, and it was gigantic. It was the biggest book that I've ever seen and wanted to read. So to illustrate that whole book, again, it's impossible. But just skipping through here, we get our first dragon on 206 and 207, which it looks pretty cool. And then the next page, we have our Welsh green.
That's written in Welsh. The border around it, yeah.
Oh, yeah, it would be.
So I thought that was super clever.
Picture, which is cool, right? I like dragons. Dragons are cool. Then the next page, we have our double spread, the Swedish... I have to think so hard about this. Swedish short snout. And it's written in Swedish underneath that as well. And it's a nice double page that has like those animal...
It's a really nice double page.
Fantastic Beast-like details. The very next page after that is our Chinese fireball double spread. I mean, cool is subjective. I think it's cool. You might dislike it.
I personally think it's kind of hot because it's a dragon.
Oh, it's a dragon dad joke. So then that's the end of that chapter. Then we get to the first task, which starts out kind of slow with nothing. And still nothing. And then we get to this kind of, again, the background is black. And then there's the focus on Harry leaving the tent, which is a pretty tense moment. I mean, I think a lot of us can relate to a moment like that. Not necessarily like going out to fight a dragon, right? I think only a few of us can relate to that specific task. But most of us can relate to being extremely nervous for something, right?
Or when I sat for a big, huge test. Or when I first walked off the plane when I moved to France, is like...
Right, or like a job interview. For me, it was
like
auditioning for the drumline at the University of Minnesota. You just have time to... And they're in this little room where you're just thinking about it, and thinking about it, and thinking about it, and then finally they call you...
Where you're just making yourself sick.
Right, and of course he has to go last, so he has to think about it even more. So, yeah, I can relate to that. And then we get more dragon pictures. So on 226...
And I love that you turn the page and then, like, there's the dragon waiting.
Right. It's kind of, it's one of those, continuation type pictures. So then the very next page is another double spread of dragons. And then the next page is more task with the fire. I like this page a lot.
Other than I think Harry looks old.
He does look old. But I like the orange fire.
No, the illustration itself is wonderfully done. The fire is amazing. And Harry himself, like, it almost looks like a Polaroid photo of him just kind of put there.
Yeah, like
so it's very good. He just looks older than I thought he would have been.
Sure. That kind of concludes the first task. So there was, I don't know, I didn't keep track, but what do you think? 7, 8, 9 pages dedicated to dragons?
I would say at least 8 dragon pages.
So, I mean, that's great. I thought they were all great. But to me, when I was first flipping through this, that kind of set the precedent of, okay, now second and third task are going to have, like, that kind of dedication to the illustrations. And they don't. And there's, like, 1 or 2 really cool ones, but it's just not as many as the first task, which that's what kind of disappointed.
I do love the page 237 little mini illustration right here with the giant blast into...
That might be...
That is hysterical.
Someone asked me on Instagram what my favorite illustration was from this book, and I said it might be this one. It's funny. And
it's just funny. Like, I would be doing the same thing as the Slytherin kid. I would be turning and running, going, he has his leg through a pumpkin.
Oh, it's good. It's good stuff. But then after that, we have a...
Real quick, love the house elves. Love the house elves on 241.
Yeah, thanks for not letting me skip that.
Well, that's really where we meet, like, Winky and the rest of the bunch, I believe.
I would have liked to have seen a more detailed, like, picture of the grandeur of the kitchen. Like, they talk about how big it is with just pots everywhere. I thought that would have been a really good inspiration for a photo, but...
Because that's where we really get, like... We've always wondered about the kitchens. Look at the food and the feast!
Right. 254. I think it's a good picture. I don't know why it's necessarily the focus picture of this chapter, but it's the first like real close-up detailed picture of Ginny that we've had, I think, to this point in any of the illustrated books. So I'm glad it's there. I kind of question
the placement,
but it's fine. It's very detailed.
It's beautiful, and that's really the first time I think we really see much of Ginny, like in a good light. Like I don't know that we see much of her other than getting her out of the chamber in book 2.
Right. You would have thought that'd be more of her in book 2.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But nope. This is our first, like, Ginny dedicated page.
So this is 262.
Yeah. So we talked about this. I think we just had a lot of difficulty putting names to faces on this page.
Yeah. Like, we spent a decent amount of time on Instagram trying to figure out. We knew who the Weasleys are.
And you could tell who Crumb is. But there's a lot of people that... Like, are we supposed to know who they are, or are they just supposed to be
random people,
other students at the ball? Right. So
because Harry's not in there I see.
No, me neither.
I would actually like more input on that because I'm kind of lost there.
Yeah, that'd be good. If you guys think you know pretty accurately who these people are, maybe we could kind of create like a yearbook style left to right, top to bottom type thing going.
Yeah, that'd be great.
That would be great if you want to comment there, because I think I'm a pretty big Harry Potter fan, and I think you are too, Carly.
Yes.
And it's hard to put names to faces on this page, so...
Yeah. So any we would like your insight here. And then we're going to go to the Durmstrang ship, because, we have to.
Yeah, my first flip through, when they showed the Beauxbatons carriage in, like, the previous chapter, I was just, kind of disappointed that they didn't have the ship. But then when I saw it here, that made me feel better. So that's good. And
yes, there's the ship.
Yes.
And it looks just like I thought it would.
Oh, exactly. And you can see Crumb diving off of it. You can see like one of the giant squid's tentacles kind of coming out of the water.
Yep.
It's just great. And like the fog, it's a fantastic illustration. So then this kind of hits the second task.
And now there's a lot less illustrations. Although the chapter art for the second task is really quite nice.
Right, but before you talk about that, I want to mention, so like chapter 25 is the chapter where Harry takes the egg into the prefect's bathroom, and the same chapter where he gets caught by Filch and Snape and Madame Moody on the stairway when he's coming back from the bathroom. There's a lot of moments that I wish they could have illustrated, and there's not a single one in that whole chapter. And it's not like Jim Kay called me and was like, "Hey, Eric, what should I include in here?"
No.
But then we get to the second task, and it's fine. I just wish there was more with the amount. I mean, we just get Harry swimming. We get, I think, Grindylows or Mer People. I can't tell which one. I think it's the Mer People. Then we get like this. I like this one of Crumb with the shark head. And we get, Harry saving Ron, and that's the end of the chapter.
And then Padfoot Returns is the following chapter. We get an owl with a letter here.
But we don't get any pictures of Sirius, either dog form or human form.
Nope. There's a Potter Stinks badge on 320. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And then we see Winky finally on 331, who's sad and dejected. I mean, she should be. She's not being treated very well.
Right. I would have liked to have seen a similar size, just center of the page or off to the corner picture of Mr. Crouch going crazy, or like Harry Crumb and Mr. Crouch going crazy, but there isn't that. So it wouldn't have had to have been a big one, just a little one in the corner. But
well, the chapter's called The Madness of Mr. Crouch, and there's no madness.
Right. Or Mr. Crouch. There's nothing. There's just the and of. That's all that there is. Yeah, it's just, and that's personal preference too. Like moments that we wish we could have seen. Not much in the next chapter. There's a cool picture of the snake on page 351 that kind of echoes the very first chapter of the book.
Right.
Which I like.
And it echoes that picture with Harry.
Which
with
I think is a good kind of bookend.
Then we get to the pensive, or the pensive.
Yeah, I call it the pensive. I think that's just because Jim Dale calls it the pensive, and I hear that audiobook all the time.
Yeah. If you look at... Then there's actually, like, you turn the page, and there it is, the pensive with the letters in the middle, or the word in the middle. I thought that was clever. And that's another one of those things, like, you can add a very, like, minimal illustration and brighten up the whole page.
Right.
Then we get to the third task, and it makes me wonder if they did, like, the... chapter art, like the head chapter art for 2 and 3. Yeah. Or the second and third task, because there's not many other things included.
Right.
So to kind of make up for that, and it's got the gold border that we see on the paste downs, and it's a pretty page, and then there's not a lot of anything else going on.
Right. We don't see anything.
And here's where I get kind of frustrated here. Yeah. If I can say I'm frustrated with the book, which you have a giant acromantula, and again, spiders. Blah. So the big first illustration you get out of this book is a giant acromantula, and then you flip the page, and there's Cedric and Harry looking at the cup, which to me, I mean, if you see like the moon at the top, it looks like a spaceship, and they're gonna be beamed up. Yeah. Which I guess is secretly what's gonna happen.
Yeah, and in some form, yes. There's no Sphinx. There's no There's no like betrayal of Cedric from Crumb, like Cedric being attacked by Crumb. There's no golden mist where everything flips upside down. I would have liked to just a good feeling of like loneliness. Just because the maze is supposed to be huge, and there's really nothing in here that makes it seem like the maze is huge. But again, personal preference. I wish there would have been more, because that seemed like there were a lot of things, even if they weren't full pages, just to put little things in the corner.
And it should.
About the different kind of obstacles that like Harry encounters in the maze, which would have been nice. So then it kind of picks up here at Flesh, Blood, and Bone. Right. It's chapter 32 on page 385. It should, right? There's a lot from here for the next chapter or two where the background is not white with black text, which I like. It's a pretty creepy photo of Harry and Cedric. I'm holding it up.
In the graveyard, and then we flip again, and it's Harry and Cedric is, of course, being a Veda Kedavra. And then you flip the page, and like...
Kapow. Definitely like the Voldemort baby thing.
Right.
Which is awful
super
looking.
Super creepy, as it should be.
Yeah.
And then you flip the page, and then there's Voldemort coming out of the cauldron.
Yes. Which looks terrifying.
Yeah. And I do like how it's... And then where the text is, it's a lighter brown.
There's a lot of parts in these chapters where, like, it's hard not to kind of see the picture out of the corner of your eye, and it's not a pleasant picture. So, like, my example for this on the Instagram video that we made was on 396... and 397, where it's just the two Voldemort eyes like in the middle of the pages.
That's super spooky.
It's spooky, and just you can't evade like the eyes staring at you as you're reading the pages, and it's kind of creepy.
And then you see the Death Eater masks, and I really like on page 401, 400, everybody's mask is different, like Martha Stewarted it.
Yeah, well, we talked about this last time. It's not like when you sign up to be a Death Eater. I don't picture Voldemort being like, all right, well, here's your mask and here's your cloak, and we're gonna put this mark on you.
No, I can't see I can't see anybody going to like Madame Malkin's one Death Eater mask. Please.
Yeah, I'd like this specific dimensions, and she'd be like, wonder what this is for. even just like the statue of this like angel gravestone in 403. But if they can include like this random angel gravestone, like then I'm like, well, they could have put the Sphinx in.
Right. They could have done something similar for the Sphinx. But this is fun, like 408, 409, and then so this is an amazing couple of like 6 pages here. The Priori Incantatum, where we have Voldemort on his side, he's shooting, you know, trying to kill Harry. And then we have Priori Incantatum happen, and we see everybody that Voldy's killed, you know, kind of coming out and like...
Which we could talk about that one in detail, but we don't have to because it is from the book.
Right.
Everything that's being described happens in that photo, or that illustration, which is great. And then the other side, like 412, 413, is Harry fighting back. And so, like, the 2 spells really are meeting in the middle. Yes.
It is so cleverly done here.
It is.
Like, I don't know that I would have thought about that.
Well, I would have. I'm just kidding. I probably wouldn't have. And then it ends. And that's kind of the end of, like, the big climactic fight scene. Then we don't really have a ton until the end. We have this random picture of Mad-Eye Moody, the real one, at the bottom of the trunk, which is fine. And then we have nothing. Parting of the ways. There's nothing in that whole chapter.
The beginning has a very good but interesting picture of Mad-Eye Moody.
Interesting placement too. Like you'd think that would have looked more in place during the chapter where like we first see him when he comes into the Great Hall at the feast to begin the school year placement.
Which is okay. And then we see Hermione on 447. And then you flip the page, and Hermione's holding the jar with what we know now is Rita Skeeter, that beetle.
Yes.
And I thought, I like that continuation from 447 to 448 there.
Yeah.
And this is actually the first time we see the Rita beetles. It's not in the movies.
Right. The Rita beetle is on one of the Grand Prix.
Yes. It's in one of the chapter covers.
Right? It's like the little... It's the chapter art for the last chapter, I think.
And then we end the book with the acknowledgments with the Rita beetle.
Yep, and that's it. That is the end.
So I feel like book 5 is going to follow this same format of a lot more smaller illustrations, chapter border for illustrative art, and probably more smaller things because book 5 is going to be a monster anyway.
Yeah.
I don't even know. It's going to be heavy. It'll be thicker than this one, and they had to, make the paper thinner so that way it's not just super big. I figure you're going to have to do the same for 5, or it's just going to get to be too much.
Right.
Especially for the deluxe illustrated. I can't wait to see his Umbridge because she's going to look like a toad. That's exactly what she's described as in the book.
Maybe not as toad-like as the Finnish book cover for book 5.
Yeah, the finished book cover on book 5 really...
it's just a straight-up toad.
Really is. Yeah, it's a toad woman.
it's not a human. What do you want to see on the cover?
Not a blue phoenix.
No, me neither. I have an idea, but I want to hear what you have to say first.
I wouldn't mind seeing like a prophecy ball. Maybe Trelawney in the background.
That's a good idea.
With her I must not tell lies quill and like faint I must not tell lies across the cover somewhere, like faint background kind of thing.
That'd be okay.
And like the Hogwarts courtyard area, like with the castle, they're coming out of the castle and Dumbledore's there and all of his wisdom just sitting there like, I know how this is going to end, it'll be okay.
Mm-hmm.
That would be interesting for me.
I just want a giant Grimmauld Place exterior shot, similar to the Grand Prix Deluxe Edition American one. I mean, it wouldn't be the same, obviously, but like, I think that I love in that book when they go to that location and they spend a significant amount of time there. I mean, all of the Jim Kay cover illustrations are kind of like a double wide front and back, the full spread of the Goblet of Fire here. So it would have to be something that could wrap around. I think it would be really cool if maybe the front was like the house and then the wraparound is like the advanced guard, like with Harry going to the house. Or even if it's something like inside the house. I think there's so much from that house that's worth drawing. And it's really...
Another moment I really want to see is when they're like doxyciding the house. I would love to see that, like with Molly and basically the kiddos, like going through and like getting all the doxies out.
Maybe not on the cover, but like...
No, not the cover, right. But like just an illustrated, not on the cover at all.
That'd be a hilarious cover. This book's just about people cleaning a house. It's not that exciting.
But I would like to see that moment, because they didn't do that in the movies.
Right.
But I would like to see that moment for sure, and I would like to see it. Like I could actually see it being Grimmauld Place for the illustration.
Yeah, I definitely think it's going to be a very dark cover with lots of blues, but I still think it might end up being a lot of blues. But we'll watch this like 3 years from now and be like, Eric, you idiot!
Well,
how are you thinking it was?
I don't want it to be lots of blue, because we already have lots of blue with Grand Prix. Thank you for joining today with Eric and myself. If you have any questions about collecting Harry Potter books, you're certainly welcome to ask either one of us. You can find him on Instagram, and you can find me in many different places. And with that, I'm going to say thanks for watching and super happy collecting.